What's going on, everybody? My name is LeakyTapsMan and this is the second part of my top 25 games of all time. If you've yet to watch the first video, I suggest you do so. It's got games number 25 down to 11 and this is my top 10. So we're at the business end. All of these games are absolutely incredible in my opinion. Remember, this is all opinion. And also at the end of the video I'll be doing some honourable mentions. These are games that were really good and they pained me not to put them in the list, but they deserve a mention just for being great games. So without further ado, here are my top 10 games of all time. It took me forever to decipher this list, so here goes nothing. Alright, at number 10 I have gone for Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. This game caused so much division amongst the gaming community when it was announced. The fact that Zelda went cel-shaded and basically a lot of people thought the series was going to die as a result. Quite short-sighted of them. I was adopting a wait-and-see approach and I should have had more faith in Miyamoto because, my god, Wind Waker was just absolutely incredible. The art style, I absolutely loved it. Cell shading hasn't come close to Wind Waker in my opinion. That is the pinnacle of cell shading graphics. But beyond the art style, the gameplay was superb. It was so incredibly refined compared to the likes of other similar games. It had an abundance of enemy types, which Zelda's renowned for. Loads of secrets. The linking between Game Boy Advance and GameCube brought up some great gameplay elements. That was one of my favourite features actually. And just all round, it was a remarkable experience. I truly found it to be an amazing game. Alright, at number 9 I have gone for 007 GOLDENEYE. This is the game that made first-person shooters on consoles. I have such fond memories of just everything about it. The level design was great for the time and still holds up today really. The music was awesome, the variety of guns was far beyond its time. The multiplayer, local multiplayer on GoldenEye was incredible. There was nothing quite like having 4 players playing some team deathmatch. And beyond that, it had a wealth of cheat modes to unlock. And just all in all, it was so ahead of its time, it was unreal. So GoldenEye was an easy inclusion. At number 8 I have gone for Final Fantasy IX. This might be a Final Fantasy that very few have played, or very few watching this may have played because it came out at the back end of the PlayStation 1's life cycle when we started to see the PlayStation 2. But to not play this game is a disservice to yourself because it is just absolutely incredible. The gameplay is more akin to the older style Final Fantasies, which is fine by me because it didn't really need that much updating. The graphics, the story was great, the characters were great, everything about the game was just superb. The Chocobo minigame, if you can call it a minigame because it was substantial than a lot of games nowadays, that had me hooked. And it's one of those few games that I can go back to every year and play it through, all the way through again, and just not be tired of it. That's the mark of a truly superb game, when you can just go back to it and basically pick up where you left off and remember it being as great as you always remembered it. Poor choice of wording there, but truly Final Fantasy IX was an amazing experience. Right, number 7, I went for Kingdom Hearts. I don't know who the mental bastard was that thought that mixing Disney with Final Fantasy would work, but he is obviously a mental genius. I remember seeing like the screenshots and the concepts beforehand and just thinking, what the hell are they doing? This is going to be terrible. What the hell do I know, right? Kingdom Hearts was pretty much my favourite PS2 game. It had an awesome battle system, the levels were just so great, and the inclusion of the Disney license just gave them so much to work with, and they really took the ball and rolled with it. And although the story was somewhat convoluted at times, it was really quite gripping, and the fact that Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't out yet just makes me so sad. But anyone that hasn't played this game, you owe it to yourselves to do so. I cannot praise Kingdom Hearts enough. Alright, at number 6 I have gone for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and it really pains me to put Ocarina of Time this low down because the game is almost beyond description and how good it really is. It's one of the few games that feels magical, which is kind of a corny word I guess you could say, but there are a few gaming experiences where you think this is just beyond a game, this is absolutely incredible to experience, and Ocarina of Time was one of those. The music just sucked you into the world and it was such a worthy successor to Link to the Past, and just really almost all aspects of the game were perfect. And it just goes to show that Nintendo, when they are on form, they are really on form and they can just craft perfection. So when I lavish this much praise on Ocarina of Time, you know the next 5 games are going to be bloody good. So without further ado, my top 5. At number 5, I've gone for Halo Combat Evolved. Now I'm sure some of you may be grimacing at the very mention of Halo, but you have to remember just how revolutionary the original Halo was. When I said that GoldenEye basically made console first-person shooters, well, Halo made first-person shooters on consoles relevant. It didn't particularly innovate in any area, it just perfected every element of gameplay to the point where it made every other game look like crap compared to it. The campaign just was full of memorable moments and levels, the enemy AI was far beyond what we had seen at the time, the music was incredible, far beyond what you see in a first-person shooter even nowadays, the multiplayer was incredible, it pushed the whole system link LAN concept for consoles. I still have fond memories of playing LAN parties with my friends, and for me Halo CE is just the best first-person shooter ever. Okay, for number 4, I'm going to turn back the clock a bit here. I went for Super Mario Bros. 3. I had a NES as a kid, and this was far and away my favourite game on the NES. Mario Bros. 3 basically perfected 2D platforming. The controls were so incredibly tight. I loved the art style. There was a whole bunch of levels, and a bunch of secret levels as well. Nintendo was so incredibly ahead of the curve when they brought this out, and again, this is a game that you can go back to and still thoroughly enjoy, and the gameplay still holds up today, which is absolutely incredible considering the age of the game. And whilst you could argue the original Super Mario Bros. Was more revolutionary, which I'm not debating, 3 refined it to a point where it set the standard that all other platformers tried to aspire to, at least in 2D. So for me, Super Mario Bros. 3 was a very, very easy inclusion, and having it at number 4 just makes these next 3 so much more incredible. Let's do this. Number 3, we have Final Fantasy VII. This game basically defined my childhood as a gamer, and like Ocarina of Time, this is a game that felt magical and truly went beyond gaming. I've spent so much time on this game that I just remember the whole thing from start to finish, and it is an experience that just hasn't been replicated in many ways by any other game since. From the characters to the locations to the battle system to the materia system, just truly a masterpiece in every sense of the word, and some of the greatest music in any game ever. I know Final Fantasy is renowned for it, and with good reason. It really is spectacular. And if for whatever reason you haven't tried this game, for the love of God, go play it right now. I order you. Okay, number 2 in my greatest games of all time. So damn close, but not quite there. Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie basically epitomised what Rare used to be, and that is the absolute pinnacle of developers and what they should always aspire to be. Banjo-Kazooie is a game that took 3D platforming and evolved it to the point where it could include elements of other genres and not suffer on the platforming side of things. It had an incredible sense of humour. It is one of the funniest games that I've played. The graphics were insanely good for the technology. There was so much to see, so much to do. And if you watch many of my other videos, you'll know that I pretty much mention Banjo 3E on a semi-regular basis. I try and get it in as many comments as I feasibly can, and that shows how much this game had an impact on me. Just, it is so damn close to platforming perfection that it's unreal, and it makes me weep to see Rare at the state they are now and going back to Banjo-Kazooie and seeing how amazing they were. But let's not take anything away from Banjo-Kazooie, the game is so incredible. I'm running out of superlatives. Let's get on to number 1. Okay, here it is folks, my number 1 game of all time. Drumroll maestro. There is no drumroll. Number 1, Super Mario 64. I chopped and changed my top 25 list so many times you wouldn't believe it, but this game was always number 1. What can I say about Super Mario 64 that does it justice? Quite simply, I can't. It is just, in my opinion, the perfect game. Not only did it revolutionise 3D platforming, it revolutionised 3D gaming, it made the analog stick relevant, the level design was just incredible, far beyond what we'd ever seen at that point. A great variety of levels, a great variety of bosses, music fantastic, just literally everything about the game just screamed perfection. And Shigeru Miyamoto, you are just an absolute magician. You have dominated this top 10, so take a bow, sunshine. So there you have it folks, my top 25 games of all time, and trust me, I did not come to this decision lightly. I put a lot of thought into this, and if you even try a top 5 list of your own, you'll know how difficult it is to do. And looking back at my list now, I can see that there aren't many current generation games in there, and to be honest, that's kind of indicative of how this generation's gone. Whilst a lot of the games are impressive visually and even in their gameplay, they just don't have that same kind of lasting impact that a lot of the older games did. And I'll also do my honourable mentions. These are the games that were either in the list at some point or just deserve a mention because they're fantastic games. Deus Ex Human Revolution, this was a game that was in my list at one point. Absolutely fantastic game. Pained me to take it out. Banjo-Tooie. I hear you saying, how can I put Banjo-Kazooie as high as second and not have the second one in there? Well, purely because Kazooie was far more revolutionary for its time, and I didn't play Tooie until far later than it came out, so it didn't have as big an impact on me personally. Halo 3, another awesome game. It just didn't make the cut purely because of how good the others were. GTA San Andreas, Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, Crash Bandicoot, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Final Fantasy VI. Those are all games that were in the list at some point, but just in the end didn't make the cut. So there you have it, absolutely everything. Just remember, this list was completely my own opinion, it's subjective, I'm not right, I'm not wrong, it's just what I think are my top 25 games. And definitely, I'd love to see at least your top 5, so put that in the comments section. I'm quite interested to see how well the newer games fare compared to the older games, because a lot of the comments in the original video only ever referred to games from this generation, which leads me to believe my subscriber base is very, very young, which is no problem, it just makes me feel like an old fogey. So a huge thank you for watching, and be sure to keep an eye out for lists similar to this in the future. I've got a few plans in the pipeline. So thank you all, goodbye.